What if the biggest lie in the multiverse wasn't about who was coming next, but about who was never meant to come at all? I keep going back to that final moment in Loki season 1, where he who remains sits there, calm, almost amused. As everything begins to fall apart, he doesn't beg for his life. He doesn't try to escape. Instead, he delivers a warning that feels far too specific to be random. If you think I'm evil, just wait till you meet my variants. The first time I heard that, I took it at face value. He was talking about Kang, right? That seemed obvious. But the more I rewatched that scene, the more something felt off. The way he pauses, the way he smiles, it didn't feel like fear of Kang. It felt like he knew something worse was already in motion, something even he couldn't fully control anymore. And that's where everything starts to unravel, because Sylvie killing him wasn't just an act of revenge. It wasn't just about freeing the timeline. It created something much bigger, something dangerously unstable, a power vacuum. And in a multiverse built entirely on control, removing the one person holding everything together doesn't create freedom. It creates chaos. Real, unpredictable chaos. The kind where no single force immediately rises to power. Instead, everything fractures. And that's exactly what we see. The timelines don't just branch, they explode into infinite possibilities, all colliding, overlapping, and contradicting each other. At first, it feels like Kang should naturally take over that space. After all, that's what we've been told. That's what the entire narrative has been building toward. But here's the thing I started connecting the dots on. If Kang variants were truly the inevitable rulers of this chaos, then why are they shown fighting each other instead of dominating everything? The Council of Kangs doesn't look like a unified threat. It looks like a broken system, a fractured empire already collapsing under its own weight. And that completely changes how we interpret He Who Remains' warning, because maybe he wasn't just talking about Kang being dangerous. Maybe he was talking about how fragile the entire system becomes without a single ruler. Without him, the Kangs don't unite. They divide. They weaken themselves. And in doing that, they leave something wide open. That opening is where the real danger begins, because in every major story about power vacuums, the most dangerous figure isn't the one everyone expects. It's the one no one sees coming. And that's where I think Dr. Doom enters the picture, not as a replacement for Kang, but as something far more terrifying. Because while Kang's entire identity revolves around time controlling it, navigating it, manipulating it, Doom operates on an entirely different level. He doesn't just control time, he understands power itself, both scientific and mystical. And when you drop a character like that into a broken multiverse filled with abandoned technology, unstable timelines, and weakened rulers, you're not introducing a new villain. You're setting up the ultimate one. I started thinking about what happens to the TVA after He Who Remains is gone. The Time Variance Authority wasn't just a bureaucratic system. It was a weapon. A machine designed to maintain a single sacred timeline by pruning anything that threatened it. That kind of technology doesn't just disappear, it gets abandoned, left behind. And in a chaotic multiverse, abandoned power is the most dangerous thing imaginable. Because someone will find it, someone will understand it, and more importantly, someone will improve it. Kang used that system to maintain order, but Doom wouldn't use it for order. He would use it for absolute control. And that's where the theory becomes even more unsettling. Because He Who Remains might have known this would happen. His entire existence was built around preventing multiversal war, not just between Kangs, but across all realities. So what if his warning wasn't about the immediate aftermath? What if it was about the long-term consequence? By killing him, Sylvie didn't just unleash Kang variants. She removed the only barrier stopping something worse from emerging. And the scariest part is that something doesn't need to rush. It doesn't need to conquer instantly. It can wait. It can observe. It can learn from the chaos. That's exactly how Doom operates. He doesn't act without understanding every variable. And now imagine him studying the remnants of TVA technology, TemPads that allow instant travel across timelines, pruning devices that can erase entire branches of reality, files containing knowledge of every event that ever happened or ever could happen. That's not just power. That's omniscience waiting to be claimed. Kang needed time to build his empire. Doom would inherit a broken one and reshape it instantly. And because he blends science with magic, he wouldn't be limited by the same rules. He wouldn't just travel through time, he would rewrite the very logic that time follows. This is where I realize something even more disturbing about He Who Remains' behavior in that final scene. He never tries to stop Sylvie. Not really. He offers her a choice, but he never forces it. It's almost like he wants her to kill him, like he's testing something, or maybe accepting something inevitable. Because if he truly believed Kang was the worst possible outcome, he would have done everything to prevent his death, but he doesn't. Which suggests that Kang isn't the in-game threat. He's just a step in the collapse, a distraction, a temporary chaos that masks the rise of something far more calculated. And that brings us back to the idea of the power vacuum. Because power doesn't stay empty for long. It attracts those who are capable of taking it. And in a multiverse where everyone is distracted by Kang variants fighting each other, Doom would have the perfect environment to rise unnoticed. No single Kang would be strong enough to stop him. And by the time they realize what's happening, it would already be too late. Because Doom wouldn't just fight them. He would outthink them, outplan them, and ultimately outgrow them. I also started noticing how this theory aligns with the larger direction of the MCU. Kang was introduced as a major threat, but his narrative has already started to fragment. Instead of building toward one unstoppable villain, we're seeing multiple versions competing for dominance. That weakens the concept of Kang as the ultimate antagonist, but it perfectly sets up the arrival of someone who can unify that chaos into a single, terrifying force. Doom doesn't need variants to be powerful. One version of him is enough. And that alone makes him more dangerous than an entire council of Kangs. The first crack in the Marvel Multiverse was never the death of Iron Man. It was the moment He Who Remains smiled before dying. But the deeper I went into the Multiverse saga, the more that smile started haunting everything. Marvel wants us to look at Dr. Doom now. They want the audience focused on secret wars, collapsing realities, godlike power, and a new face sitting on the throne. But what if the biggest reveal is much darker than that? What if Kang already won long before Avengers Doomsday even begins? Think about it carefully. Every single event across the sacred timeline happened because one man allowed it to happen. The Avengers time traveled because He Who Remains approved it. Loki escaped because He Who Remains needed him to escape. The TVA existed because He Who Remains wanted every dangerous branch under control. And if that is true, then maybe Dr. Doom is not replacing Kang at all. Maybe Doom is the final consequence of Kang's perfect design finally breaking apart after centuries of manipulation. When Marvel ended Loki Season 2 with Loki holding the multiverse together like a living god, most fans saw it as a heroic ending. I did too during my first viewing, but then I went back and noticed something unsettling. Loki never truly escaped the system. He simply became the system. He Who Remains built a prison so massive that even freedom itself became another layer of control. The timelines were no longer dying, but they were still trapped inside a structure created by Kang's mind. That changes everything. Because if the sacred timeline was originally designed to stop dangerous variants from existing, then the biggest question becomes obvious. Which variant was dangerous enough to justify all this suffering? It could not just be random Kangs. The TVA erased entire universes. Innocent people vanished forever. And suddenly, Dr. Doom starts making terrifying sense. Not simply as a new villain replacing Kang, but as the one man Kang feared more than himself. The kind of threat capable of destroying every version of reality permanently. Now here is where the theory becomes honestly insane. What if Victor Von Doom already existed inside Earth 616 this entire time, but under another identity? Marvel has quietly built this possibility for years without directly saying it. Tony Stark constantly felt disconnected from his own family legacy. Howard Stark respected him, but there was always emotional distance between them, almost like Tony never truly belonged there. Even his intelligence felt unnatural sometimes. Tony solved problems nobody else in the MCU could even understand. Artificial intelligence, nanotechnology, time travel, multiversal calculations, all of it came naturally to him. And maybe that was never accidental. What if He Who Remains took the most dangerous version of Victor Von Doom and rewrote his existence entirely? Instead of allowing Doom to rise in Latveria, he buried that soul inside the life of Tony Stark, just redirected toward heroism. Honestly, the more I think about it, the scarier it becomes. Because it means Iron Man was never just Iron Man. He may have been a sleeping Doom who never realized his real identity before dying in Endgame. And suddenly, Endgame feels completely different. We all believe the Avengers discovered time travel through their own brilliance. But remember what He Who Remains said in Loki. Everything the Avengers did was supposed to happen. That means Tony creating time travel was allowed intentionally. Why? Because He Who Remains needed the sacred timeline to reach a specific destination. He needed Loki to escape with the Tesseract. He needed Sylvie to eventually find the Citadel. He needed someone emotionally broken enough to replace him at the center of existence. The entire Infinity Saga may have secretly been one giant setup for Loki Season 2. And if that is true, then Tony Stark becomes even more tragic. I genuinely think Marvel could reveal that Tony's instincts about never fitting anywhere were tiny echoes of Doom's erased memories fighting to return. Small cracks hidden beneath the armor for decades, waiting until the system finally collapsed after Loki and Endgame happened almost simultaneously. The timing matters more than people realize. Tony Stark dies. He Who Remains dies. The sacred timeline breaks. Those events happen almost together from a multiversal perspective. That cannot be coincidence anymore. The moment both anchors disappear, the barriers holding reality together begin collapsing instantly. Branches start multiplying uncontrollably. Incursions become possible. Different universes start bleeding into each other. And somewhere beyond those broken walls, Dr. Doom finally remembers who he really is. Just imagine that scene for a second. A version of Doom surviving after the original multiversal war suddenly regains forbidden memories that were locked away for centuries. He remembers Kang rewriting history. He remembers being turned into a puppet. He remembers losing everything because one man decided only his vision deserved survival. That kind of rage would create a monster unlike anything the MCU has ever shown. And honestly, it would make Doom feel emotionally justified in his anger, which is exactly what great Marvel villains need. He would not see himself as evil. He would see himself as the victim of cosmic theft. That motivation alone could carry the entire multiverse saga emotionally. This is why I think Avengers Doomsday will begin with manipulation instead of destruction. Doom probably will not enter the story throwing planets across the sky immediately. That would be too simple. Instead, he will approach powerful beings already frustrated with the multiverse system. Characters like Strange, Wanda, if she returns, Loki, maybe even surviving TVA members. He will whisper the truth slowly. He will reveal that every tragedy happened because he who remains engineered reality itself. And the terrifying part is that he will not entirely be wrong. Doom could become the ultimate version of that formula. A man whose universe was stolen from him before he even had the chance to exist properly. Once audiences emotionally connect with that pain, the conflict becomes far more dangerous. Because now the heroes are not fighting pure evil anymore. They are fighting somebody exposing the horrifying foundations beneath their entire universe. Imagine Peter Parker discovering Tony Stark may have secretly been a rewritten variant of Doom. Imagine Loki realizing his glorious purpose was engineered from the beginning. Those emotional revelations would hit harder than any CGI battle Marvel could possibly create. And there is another layer nobody talks about enough. The TVA itself may already know fragments of this truth. Think about Mobius carefully. His entire arc revolves around identity, memory, and stolen lives. TVA agents believe they were created for one sacred mission, only to discover they were kidnapped variants stripped of their real existence. That theme lines up perfectly with the Tony Stark and Doom theory. Lives rewritten, memories erased, purpose manufactured artificially. Marvel keeps repeating these ideas intentionally across the multiverse saga. Multiverse of Madness literally centered around dreams connecting alternate selves. The pattern is everywhere once you notice it. Marvel has been building toward a story where identity itself cannot be trusted anymore. And if Doom learns the full truth before everyone else, then he automatically becomes the most emotionally dangerous person alive, because he is the only one willing to weaponize that truth against reality itself. Honestly, I would not be shocked if Avengers Doomsday reveals that some heroes secretly agree with him at first. Not because they support genocide or conquest, but because they finally understand how deeply manipulated their lives have always been since the beginning of the MCU timeline. Now let us talk about Loki, because his ending may secretly contain the biggest clue of all. Loki sits alone at the center of time, holding every branch together forever. Beautiful scene, emotional music, heroic sacrifice. But look closer. Loki basically becomes the replacement engine for He Who Remains system. The structure survives even after the ruler changes. That feels intentional to me. It suggests the multiverse itself still depends on somebody controlling it from above. And that idea would absolutely horrify Dr. Doom. Doom has always believed nobody deserves ultimate power except the person intelligent enough to use it correctly, which in his mind is obviously himself. So if he discovers Loki inherited the throne originally built by Kang, he may see Loki as just another prisoner maintaining a corrupt machine. Imagine Doom approaching Loki not as an enemy at first, but almost as a liberator. He could genuinely offer Loki freedom from eternal isolation while secretly planning to seize control afterward. He would not just attack physically, he would emotionally dismantle people first. And honestly, Loki would probably understand Doom better than anyone else. Both are men shaped by stolen identities, rewritten destinies, and lives controlled by forces beyond their understanding. Their conversations alone could become some of the best scenes Marvel has ever written if they fully commit to this direction. What fascinates me most is how this theory transforms the Infinity Saga retroactively without destroying its emotional impact. Tony Stark still remains a hero. His sacrifice still matters. But now there is tragic irony beneath everything. The man who saved the universe may have unknowingly been the very threat the universe was built to suppress. That is unbelievably poetic. Remember how Captain America always represented freedom while secretly existing inside a controlled timeline? Remember how Wanda searched for happiness only to create suffering repeatedly across realities? The MCU constantly plays with contradictions between identity and destiny. Doom being hidden inside Tony Stark would become the ultimate contradiction of all. A monster transformed into a savior through force manipulation. But once that manipulation ends, the original darkness begins returning through surviving variants. It also explains why Marvel might avoid directly mentioning Kang for a while. They do not need audiences emotionally attached to Kang anymore. They only need the consequences of his actions haunting the universe in the background. That allows Doctor Doom to dominate the spotlight while still preserving the years of setup connected to He Who Remains, Loki, and the TVA without wasting any of that narrative investment completely. And honestly, comics history supports this possibility more than people think. Nobody stays gone forever in Marvel. Not heroes, not villains, not timelines. The company survives on legacy and resurrection. So even if Kang disappears temporarily from the screen, that does not mean Marvel abandoned the character permanently. It simply means the studio is repositioning him carefully for the future. Maybe 10 years from now, after Doom's reign finally collapses, a new saga begins where audiences discover He Who Remains actually prevented something even worse from happening. Suddenly, every horrible thing he did gains terrifying context. The TVA pruning timelines, the sacred timeline, the manipulation, the lies. It all becomes part of one impossible choice between freedom and survival. And that is exactly why I love this theory so much. Nobody becomes fully innocent anymore. Every major figure in the multiverse saga becomes morally complicated. Heroes carry hidden darkness. Villains carry understandable pain. And the audience gets trapped somewhere painfully between both sides. The scariest possibility is that He Who Remains predicted his own death long ago and still considered it part of the winning scenario. That smile before dying suddenly becomes terrifying again if you think about it this way. Maybe he already knew Doom would eventually emerge after the sacred timeline shattered. Maybe the entire purpose of Loki inheriting the timelines was preparing the multiverse for the next war. He Who Remains may have understood something nobody else does yet. Doom cannot simply be erased permanently. Every time reality resets, another version returns eventually. So, instead of trying to destroy Doom forever, Kang created an endless loop designed to delay him repeatedly across different eras. That would explain why Loki's ending feels hopeful and tragic simultaneously. And if Avengers Secret Wars adapts even part of this idea, we could see Doom attempting to rebuild existence from broken timelines while believing he is finally freeing reality from Kang's ancient prison. Freedom against order, destiny against identity, memory against manipulation. All rooted in choices made long before Iron Man ever built his first suit inside that cave. And maybe that is the real reason Marvel shifted toward Doctor Doom publicly. Casual audiences still remember Iron Man emotionally. They remember Robert Downey Jr. as the heart of the MCU. Connecting Doom spiritually or thematically to Tony Stark instantly creates emotional investment again, without needing endless exposition about multiversal politics. Imagine audiences slowly realizing the next great villain reflects the greatest hero who started everything. Peter Parker especially could become central to that conflict because Peter inherited Tony's legacy more personally than anyone else. If Doom carries echoes of Tony, Peter would constantly hesitate fighting him. He would search for humanity beneath the armor even while the multiverse collapses around them. Marvel could create heartbreaking scenes from that alone. And meanwhile, hidden behind every major event, the shadow of He Who Remains still lingers silently. Every incursion, every broken identity, every desperate attempt to control chaos. That is why this theory works so well for me. It transforms the entire MCU into one giant chain reaction caused by a single, impossible decision made outside time itself. One ruler tried preventing multiversal destruction by rewriting reality completely, and now the consequences of that choice are finally returning all at once through Dr. Doom. When Avengers Doomsday finally arrives, I think audiences expecting a simple replacement for Kang are going to be shocked. Doom will probably feel larger, more emotional, and far more personal than people expect. Not because he appears suddenly, but because his existence may already be connected to everything we have watched since Iron Man began the MCU in 2008. That possibility honestly gives me chills. It means the multiverse saga was never directionless chaos like people claimed online. Loki becoming the guardian of timelines. The TVA hiding stolen identities. Tony Stark never feeling complete. Kang smiling before death. Every thread leading toward one horrifying realization. He who remains may have technically won, but his victory created the exact nightmare he feared most. And now the multiverse must survive the return of a man whose destiny was stolen across countless realities. If Marvel truly commits to this direction, Avengers Secret Wars could become less about saving universes and more about deciding who deserves the right to shape reality itself. Honestly, that is the kind of bold storytelling I have been waiting for from Marvel for years now.
Okay, let's just get right into it, because Kang the Conqueror is, without a doubt, the absolute tragedy of the greatest cinematic villain that never was. I mean, historically speaking, he is unquestionably one of the most terrifying adversaries of all time. We are talking about a relentless, god-tier threat who pushes heroes way past their absolute breaking points, easily rivaling the existential dread we felt with Ultron, or the devastating psychological warfare of Baron Zemo. Yet we all watched a character with limitless, unbelievable potential just get entirely mishandled. So today, I'm going to break down a completely alternative, incredibly detailed cinematic blueprint for how this iconic villain absolutely should have been utilized. In this explainer, we are going to construct a massive, time-spanning epic that not only gives this absolute mastermind the deep respect he deserves, but intricately sets up the entire future of the cinematic universe. Look, we have to admit it. Kang was completely robbed of his dignity as an overarching, terrifying threat. Making a guy like this lose to highly evolved ants and then diluting him into this infinite army of shouting multiverse variants, it completely destroyed the stakes of his character. We were initially presented with this cold, calculating warlord who exuded absolute confidence and brutality. This was a guy who claimed to have killed so many champions he literally couldn't even remember their names. But then, that post-credits reveal of the Council of Kangs? It broke the most fundamental rule of cinematic antagonism. See, if we want to be deeply invested in a villain, that villain has to be a singular, complex entity. Think about why a threat like Thanos worked so flawlessly. He was a real person with a singular, deeply twisted, yet heartfelt desire. When you fracture a villain into an infinite number of variants, you generate immediate psychological apathy in the audience. You simply cannot care about an infinite swarm of copies the way you care about one defining, unstoppable antagonist.
So, how do we fix this? Well, we need to completely shift the philosophical foundation of the story from the multiverse back to time travel. An infinite multiverse inherently means character deaths carry almost zero weight. I mean, if someone dies, you just grab another one from the next universe over, right? It makes everything feel completely hollow and pointless. If there is an infinite amount of everyone, the dramatic stakes completely evaporate. Time travel stories, however, are fundamentally different. Time travel makes time itself the ultimate, unbeatable enemy. It connects directly to our deep existential dread, our profound curiosity about the past, and our terrifying lack of control over the future. Time is literally the one single aspect of our human lives that we can never truly defeat. Kang's fundamental identity is a time traveler, not some multiverse-hopping variant. Recentering him on that specific finite mastery of time is the absolute key to restoring his narrative weight.
To truly understand the monster, we really have to look at his origin. He starts off as a man from the 31st century, which is an era where mankind has finally built this perfect, peaceful utopia. But inside, he is entirely hollow. He's bored. He craves conquest. So he discovers an ancient time machine, incorporating legendary tech once tied to Doom but refined by his own brilliant ancestors. He steals it and begins to violently conquer across various eras throughout history. But what makes him truly fascinating isn't the conquering itself. It's the immense, crushing tragedy that builds within him over his impossibly long life. He falls deeply, completely in love with a woman named Ravana Renslayer, and in a devastating twist of fate, she dies right in his arms. The cruel, ultimate irony of Kang is that he possesses absolute mastery over the flow of time itself, yet he is completely powerless to rewind it just enough to save the one single person he truly loves. His hubris repeatedly turns his grief into the blinding rage of a brutal warlord.
And this, right here, brings us to the emotional core of our epic. The original heroes broke the fabric of time, and now this new generation has to pay the price. Think back to Tony Stark's original warning when he first unlocked the quantum realm. Remember what he said? He explicitly warned everyone that if you mess with time, it tends to mess back. The heroes disrupted the natural order to save the universe, tampering with the fundamental fabric of reality. A true time travel epic has to show the direct, terrifying repercussions of that specific decision. The new generation of heroes has been living in the massive, suffocating shadow of the original team, wrestling with the immense weight of these new responsibilities. Our story forces this new, unproven team to literally, physically clean up the catastrophic temporal mess left behind by their mentors.
We're setting up the absolute ultimate sins of the father storyline here. I want you to imagine a timeline where Kang isn't just some random temporal anomaly, but a direct descendant of Tony Stark himself. In the distant utopian future, technology has become so incredibly advanced that people no longer need to form deep bonds or even challenge one another. So, this brilliant descendant of Stark grows up entirely isolated in this cold, sterile perfection. He inherits literally all of Tony's absolute worst traits: the massive ego, the blinding narcissism, the desperate need to build a literal suit of armor around the entire world, but he possesses absolutely none of the love, friendship, or deep human connection that ultimately grounded Tony and made him a true hero. He accesses his ancestors' database, reconstructs the time machine, and realizes his own bloodline created the chaos he now seeks to rule. It's poetic, isn't it? Tony Stark, in his ultimate sacrifice fueled by love, literally engineered the greatest sociopathic villain of the future.
So, how do we kick this off? We open the film with absolute shocking brutality. Right as the new heroes try to step out of the shadows of the old team and finally come together, Kang arrives. I want the audience to feel the sheer terror and the stakes immediately. We are not building up to him slowly over 2 hours of screen time, no way. We start with the new team finally gathering, perhaps assembled by a purely logical white vision who has calculated the impossibly high probabilities of a massive disruption in the time stream. But before they can even formalize their alliance, the sky just shatters. Kang descends. He doesn't offer a grand theatrical monologue, he simply strikes with the overwhelming, godlike efficiency of 31st century weaponry. In the blink of an eye, he vaporizes half the team before the title card even drops. It's a moment that is every bit as paralyzing as the snap placed right at the beginning of the story, forcing the survivors into an immediate, desperate, bloody retreat.
Just as the remaining heroes are about to be entirely wiped from existence, a mysterious savior drops from the sky to rescue them. And the brilliant visual deception here is that this savior wears incredibly advanced armor that deeply, deeply resembles Iron Man's classic design. The surviving heroes instinctively trust him, right? They see the familiar glow of the repulsors and feel this fleeting, desperate sense of safety. But as he whisks them away into the temporal void and they finally catch their breath, he drops a completely devastating bombshell. He is from the future, and he is Iron Lad, the teenage version of the exact same monster that just slaughtered their friends. In his timeline, his older self actually came back to train him to become a conqueror, but he violently rejected that dark destiny. He has traveled back to our present to help the heroes understand the threat and to try and stop his future self from ever existing.
Now, you might be wondering, how on earth do you defeat a god? Well, you have to understand the mechanics of his existence. Iron Lad carefully explains the concept of causality and the grandfather paradox. This is Kang's single glaring vulnerability. He has to ensure his own timeline still occurs, meaning he absolutely cannot kill his ancestors. If he harms the immediate lineage of Tony Stark, Tony never lives to invent time travel. If Tony never invents time travel, Kang never inherits the technology, which would instantly, permanently erase Kang from existence entirely. This paradox is the linchpin of the entire war, and it explains so much. It is exactly why Kang never attacked the original team in their prime. He had to wait until his own existence was securely locked into the temporal flow before making his move. He is a god, yes, but he is a god chained to the legacy of the man who started it all.
With the rules established, the mission becomes terrifyingly clear. The surviving heroes must use Iron Lad's time travel technology to scatter across the timeline and stop Kang's simultaneous invasions across all of history. It is a war of sheer, utter desperation. White Vision's probability calculations determine exactly who needs to go where to sever Kang's temporal anchors. The team is forced to fracture, jumping completely blindly into the raging time stream. We're talking about intense, isolated battles in ancient Egypt, crucial interventions in the present day, and terrifying incursions into deeply dystopian futures. Imagine the pure terror of heroes who rely on modern technology and tight-knit teamwork suddenly being stripped of absolutely everything, isolated and thrust into hostile alien eras where they must confront futuristic armies entirely alone.
Let's break down what these isolated missions actually look like. I want you to picture Shang-Chi, a character deeply, intrinsically tied to the ancient, mythical history of his world, being thrust far back into the ancient past. While tracking down one of Kang's temporal anchors, he stumbles upon something impossible buried in the dirt, the legendary 10 Rings. The realization hits him like a physical blow to the chest. These weapons of immense power weren't magical artifacts gifted by ancient gods like he always believed. No, they were nothing more than advanced 31st century technology that Kang carelessly dropped during some forgotten ancient skirmish. Shang-Chi has to process the crushing reality that his family's sacred, violent history, the very weapons that defined his father's empire of blood, were essentially just the discarded trash of a futuristic warlord.
And this discovery, it forces Shang-Chi into the ultimate moral dilemma of time travel. Does he leave the rings in the past to preserve history, knowing full well it will create the violent warlord his father became? If he takes the rings with him to weaken Kang's overarching plan, he essentially erases his father's 1,000-year empire and perhaps even his own existence as a hero. But if he leaves him in the dirt, he is actively making the conscious, deliberate choice to allow centuries of bloodshed, suffering, and assassination to occur just to preserve the timeline. It's a profound, crushing test of character. I mean, what would you do? Do you let history unfold with all its horror, or do you stop the monster in front of you?
Meanwhile, we transition to the blistering heat of ancient Egypt, where Moon Knight finds himself fighting alongside the historical forces of Khonshu against Ramatud, an early, incredibly vicious variant of Kang himself. Since Kang famously conquered ancient Egypt under the guise of this pharaoh, sending Moon Knight back to this specific era is poetically brutal. Think about it. Moon Knight is already deeply haunted by the countless lives he's taken in service of his god, and the crushing weight of all the avatars that came before him. Now, he is thrust into a visceral, gritty clash of eras. Imagine the magical sand and blood of ancient Egyptian warriors clashing wildly against the cold, searing, futuristic lasers of Ramatud. It is a spectacularly violent battle that pushes Moon Knight to confront the brutal, unvarnished origins of his own violent faith. But we can't just look at the past. We also have to witness the terrifying consequences of failure, taking our heroes into deeply dystopian futures. Time travel allows us to vividly explore realities where the villains actually won. Imagine sending a character like Sam Wilson into a distant, completely ravaged future. A desolate wasteland ruled by Maestro, an older, highly intelligent, and intensely cruel version of the Hulk, proving once and for all that the monster's brutality always stemmed from the man inside. Or they jump to an apocalyptic wasteland straight out of Old Man Logan, where an elderly, broken, and grizzled Wolverine is the very last surviving hero, crawling through a world entirely subjugated by Kang's metallic fortresses. Seeing these hopeless futures absolutely breaks the spirit of our modern heroes, showing them exactly, viscerally, what is at stake. And here is where the narrative web gets truly brilliant. Kang's careless footprint through history doesn't just affect our current heroes, it inadvertently creates the dawn of the mutants. Deep in the sands of Egypt, during these chaotic ancient battles, another piece of Kang's hyper-advanced technology is lost in the desert. We see a young, mutated outcast named Ensabah Nur stumble upon this crashed, futuristic gear. He bonds with it, using its incredible alien power to exponentially augment his own latent mutant abilities, painfully transforming himself into the immortal conqueror known as Apocalypse. The absolute tragedy here is that the godhood of Apocalypse is nothing more than a byproduct of Kang's carelessness. By weaving this timeline together, we organically plant the seeds for the greatest, most terrifying threats mutantkind will ever face. I want you to lean into the tragedy of this for a moment. By showing these Days of Future Past style dystopias right now, we establish an incredible, suffocating tension for the entire mutant saga going forward. When our heroes travel forward to find Kang's temporal anchors, they don't just seek Kang's victories, they witness horrific timelines where humanity has unleashed towering sentinels to enslave and entirely wipe out the mutant race. From a narrative perspective, it is absolutely brilliant to show the audience the grim, inevitable end of the mutants before the X-Men even officially form in our present day. It gives them a definitive expiration date. When the mutants finally step into the spotlight later on, we already know in the back of our minds that they are fighting a desperate uphill battle against their own guaranteed extinction. As we finally reach the crushing finale, the narrative focuses completely on Iron Lad. After fighting across centuries and witnessing the sheer insurmountable scale of the suffering his older self will cause, this young hero reaches a complete psychological breaking point. He faces the ultimate trolley problem. He decides that the only way to truly guarantee the safety of the timeline is to commit an atrocity himself. He prepares to detonate a devastating temporal bomb that will wipe out a massive population center in the past, ensuring his own death in the blast, and violently erasing Kang from the future entirely. The absolute heartbreak of this moment is watching a young, hopeful boy realize he feels he has to commit a localized genocide and become a monster today just to stop the ultimate conqueror tomorrow. And this is exactly where the emotional arcs beautifully, tearfully align. Every single hero in this story started out completely crushed by the weight of their legacy. Shuri grieving the immense shadow of T'Challa, Sam struggling to carry the impossible weight of Steve's shield, Shang-Chi fighting his father's blood-soaked empire, Moon Knight trapped by Khonshu's ancient demands. But as they stand before a terrified young man about to destroy himself because of his future legacy, they finally understand the truth. They plead with him, step by step, explaining that legacy is a complete illusion. You are not bound by the sins of your ancestors, and you are not locked into the terror of your future. You only have to make the right choice in the present. They save Iron Lad not with futuristic weapons or magic, but with their deeply grounded shared humanity.
Using a time travel epic of this magnitude not only redeems the ultimate villain, but it finally frees the heroes, and us the audience, to move on from the past and face the future. We didn't just need a hollow, punch-em-up robot movie, we needed a profound story that allowed these incredibly flawed, grieving characters to physically battle the literal concept of time and history. By confronting a villain who is the absolute embodiment of the sins of the past and the terror of the future wrapped into one, the new generation finally earns their place. It clears the cinematic board, allowing us all to step out of the massive shadow of what came before. But it leaves us with the ultimate question as a new era dawns. When the dust finally settles, will we remain chained to the ghosts of our past, or will we find the courage to build a brighter tomorrow?